about a year ago, Delaware Space Grant was told by a headquarters Space Grant that we were not fulfilling the requirements on minority recruitment. So it was apparent that we had to change the way we approached on the awarding of scholarships and fellowships to underrepresented minorities. So I contacted a faculty member at Delaware's only HBCU, and he will speak to you today. It's Dr. Chad Starks, who's an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology and Criminal Justice. Not your regular STEM department, but he's got a lot of significant things to say.
Good afternoon. Let me first begin by thanking Dermot for that great introduction. But also I want to thank Delaware Space Grant for taking a non-traditional approach to the issue that we know is not only a STEM issue, but an issue that our society has been plagued with underrepresented groups getting opportunities as mainstream society. I also want to thank the National Directors Council for allowing me to get on the agenda today. I know it's not every day that a social science person gets to have the opportunity to come and entertain or have an opportunity to speak about his or her perspectives on issues such as this. So for that, too, I'm grateful. So the title of my talk today is STEM and the Future Workforce, The Messenger Matters. I'm going to give a little brief introduction about myself. As I was introduced, my name is Brian Chad Starks, and I have a PhD in criminology. I'm an assistant professor in the Sociology and Criminal Justice Department at Delaware State University, and I'm also an associate director for the Delaware Space Grant. Let me tell you how I got to this point. A majority of the research that I do is, like most criminologists, I look at why individuals, why groups of people in certain categories of folks are involved in criminality. But I don't stop my research at there. I include in my understanding of criminological theoretical underpinnings of the criminal justice agencies and how they respond to those that are involved in criminal justice, crime in particular. And what I've noticed, and of course we all know, that there's a disproportionate representation of minorities involved in the criminal justice system. And my research looks at the how and why at each phase of the criminal justice system. So I was able to have this opportunity as a graduate student to kind of take, disproportionate representation and kind of turn it on its head in academia. So what I did as a graduate student at the University of Delaware is, me along with two faculty members, we created what was called a Minority Mentor Lecture Series. And we bring in a minority scholar for 2 days, put them up in the best hotel in Newark, Delaware, take them to the best restaurant in Newark, Delaware. But we also advertise them in a way maybe not they have had the opportunity for their research or their accolades to be presented to mainstream society. So we'll have a big layout for them, reception, but we also have them present their research to our entire department. But that's not the major portion of why this is so important. That following day, we allow all the minority graduate students to go to lunch with that minority faculty member to ask some of those questions that may not be able to be addressed with your professors. That's important. That's very important in understanding what I may face as a minority in the job market. What it would be like for me gaining access to certain data sets that allow me to publish, that will put me on the trajectory of gaining tenure or even a full professor. So I was fortunate enough to where my department listened to me, and that program now is a staple in the Sociology and Criminal Justice Department at the University of Delaware. So NASA has a strong interest in underrepresentation of minorities in STEM. I had the luxury of playing basketball with one of the top physicists, who's here now, Dr. William Matthews, and he and I were having conversations about my research, his research, and we kind of came up with this interdisciplinary approach. So I'm here to talk to you today about some of these interdisciplinary approaches that we've taken in an umbrella under the sociology of STEM. I have an undergraduate degree in sociology. I have a master's degree in criminal justice, a master's certificate in alcohol and drug studies, and I have a PhD in criminology. Total around 13 years I've been involved in higher education as a student. I was born and raised in Columbia, South Carolina, and I've had the pleasure of having one African American male as a professor. Not sure if you noticed, I'm black. I'm an African American male. At Delaware State University, approximately, give or take a few, 30 to 40 professors in the STEM program, in the STEM faculty, maybe 5 of those are African American men. Maybe 5 of those are African American. 1 of those 5 are actually men. Not sure if you know about Delaware State University, but it is a historically black college and university. And of course, most of those students are first generation. And institutions like this have been catered to meet some of the needs and some of the challenges that some of our minority students have been faced with. Also, at Delaware State University, I'm the only African American male in my department in sociology and criminal justice. We have 1 African American female. We have a chair who's from Ghana, and we have 4 white professors. Why do I tell you this? Why do I share this with you? This is not just a STEM part. This is in the social sciences as well. This is the issue, not just starting with higher education. This is the issue that is starting with public schools, middle schools, high schools, entrance exams into higher education. This is not just a solo issue relative to STEM or social sciences. With this predominantly black population, you can't underestimate the power of walking into a college classroom and seeing a face that resembles yours. There's a type of comfortableness that I'm able to allow for my students to have even before I open my mouth. That's very important when you don't know how to navigate life yet. You're 18, 19, leaving home, leaving your parents, guidance. And it's very important when you have what I like to term as some of those extensive family members that can understand some of the issues and the speed bumps that you've had to face in life. I keep wanting to remind you that this is a sociological perspective which has a place in STEM. Recognizing the impact of race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, family, culture is important. These things have a place in STEM. For example, I was born in South Carolina, like I said. My mother was one of 14 children. My grandfather has a 2nd grade education. My mother used to tell me stories about laying down in the cotton field when the school bus would come because my grandfather didn't support education over survival. These are cultural values. My mother gave me a great work ethic. She gave me religiosity, spirituality, accountability. But she could not support educational pursuits. At the age of 14, she said, "Son, I keep hearing you talking about wanting to go to college." She said, "Well, if you're going to go to college, you better earn a scholarship." A little disjointed, a little disappointed, a little spoiledness. Thought I was a good kid, fortunate enough to get good grades. But I didn't understand all that she had done for me to put me in a position to even have that opportunity. She reminded me that she had to lay down in those fields every day and how it was up to me to be responsible for change. And I mean generational change as first generational college student. Can any of you relate to this story? So how can we address this issue of underrepresentation of minorities in STEM? We need more minority PhDs in STEM. Of course, we need more representation. There are things you can do each day to move in that direction. From the sociological perspective, we must start off by being honest. Being honest about race, class, and gender. Acknowledging someone's race isn't racist, but using it against them is racism. The importance of recognizing differences is what should bring us together. We're in education, but that creates an opportunity for us to learn. And through those differences, there's an opportunity for growth. You should ask those kids that are in your classrooms that do not resemble you. How is it for you in this college space? How are you doing today? Is there anything that I could be of assistance with? We got to step outside of our comfort zone. I would be remiss to say that this was an easy task. This is not. It's very challenging. This is why this is not a new phenomenon. This has plagued higher education. This has plagued society for hundreds of years. As we all know, the definition of insanity, though, is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Along my journey, there were people that acknowledged that I had some skills that I may not have known myself. I did not start school off with the goal of becoming a PhD. In my graduate studies at the University of South Carolina, there was a white female that I worked for. She came to me one day and she said, "Chad, you should be a college professor." Please, lady, what are you talking about? Who's going to let me teach their children? Really? No, seriously, Chad. I brushed it off. She came back the next day with some job opportunities as an adjunct professor once I completed my master's. She wouldn't let me go. She wouldn't let me say no. Without her in my life, I wouldn't be here today standing in front of me. Her face did not resemble her. The messenger matters. There's an ethic of care that has to be increased. I write about an ethic of care in criminology. How many people working in criminal justice agencies come into contact with young black men in our criminal justice system? Attorneys, probation officers, jailers, law enforcement. After all the research that I've done, the probation officers are the one they're very fatigued of this continuing vicious cycle of seeing young black men being cycled in each and every day. There's an ethic of care that belongs in higher education. There's an ethic of care that we are in a position to do something about, to increase the number of underrepresented groups in higher ed, and specifically in STEM. It's going to take a non-traditional approach. It's going to take some honesty. If you don't know something, because a PhD doesn't always make us know everything. We can ask someone that does, and it's okay. It's okay because evidence-based outcome is what we all want. I believe the incongruities is how we go about viewing it. And I think we need to start with having one of those honest and real conversations. I recognize that this is an uncomfortable conversation, but for things to change in African American and most minority communities, some of you are going to have to be uncomfortable. Imagine the African American, the Native American, the Latino, the Hispanic, and oftentimes female. Are they uncomfortable in your classes? Here's my challenge to you. One of the great black sociologists that I study at Yale University, Dr. Elijah Anderson, his most recent book was about the cosmopolitan canopy. And that's his place in space in Philadelphia where all different sizes, different races, different ages, different cultures, different backgrounds come together. And there are no isms, as Dr. Cornel West likes to say. There's no racism, there's no sexism, there's no classism. Everyone is helping each other. But when we go back to our respective homes, our respective institutions, our respective Delaware Space Grant, for some reason those ugly isms rear their ugly heads. I'm challenging you today not to be a part of a cosmopolitan canopy. I'm challenging you today to be the messenger that you are. Be the messenger. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Is the work that you're doing, have you had any success yet in getting students of color interested in this area?
Careful about how I operationalize success, but I've got access to some data, and I was so happy to see Dr. Johnson say that he's very interested in data. Yes, ma'am, according to our records from 7, 8 years of Delaware Space Grant, I believe last year we did increase some of the numbers, but right now, as far as the application for summer research interns and scholarships, I do believe that they have increased even more right now. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, to be specific, we just yesterday decided on the awards for summer research interns, and we typically have 5 or 6 of those for a year. 6 of them are going out this year. 4 of them are to students at Delaware State University. We have never seen numbers like that before.
Yes, sir.
I'm a student, I'm not really from the place, but I really like your speech, by the way. It talked about how people in races don't really follow STEM or sciences that are, which is amazingly true. I'm Dominican, I'm used to seeing people go out there and do things that are just like money-based or like baseball, and I'm studying in Pennsylvania where most of people just want to do like sports, or what tips, advice do you have for students or future generations about following STEM? Because I just find it a shame that we have such bright people these days, such amazing technologies, and we have like people like Neil deGrasse Tyson or scientists in general, and we waste all this technology on just sports people who are not interested in science, just not people who don't want to progress in the future. So what tips do you have for people like me who want to pursue science?
Great question. What I would say, very succinct, time-wise response is, I've never looked down at an opportunity to put yourself in a position to change a generation. I played every sport possible. I read every book possible. I tried to get every skill I could that was going to advantageous me in order to have some public mobility. I'm a huge fan of sports, and sports in the African American community has given young men like me full educational scholarships to places like predominantly white institutions like Wofford College that cost $44,000 a year. My mother made $12,000 a year. There was no way I would have been able to make it if I wasn't actually stopping somebody from catching a touchdown. And I was fortunate enough to have some intellectual ability, and I had a pretty good GPA in high school. So I don't really look at the opportunities as segregating. You see, most of my research is never about separating, it's about inclusion. I'm more of a Renaissance approach. Why can't you do it all? Why can't you put yourself in a position where people have to say no to you? And that's the approach that I would say. Don't limit yourself. Gain every skill that you can to put yourself in the best position. Who would ever think a criminologist would be standing in front of hard sciences talking about sociology and STEM? Don't box yourself in, and don't allow folks to box yourself in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.